Journal entry, Mackinac. We flew into Pellston City, Michigan, and took a taxi to the lodge where we had reservations for the night. The hotel was just minutes away from Mackinac City, where we would then take the ferry over to Mackinac Island. I was beyond excited, and Angelo chuckled joyously at my giddiness. Our room at the lodge was nice and cozy, and I was looking forward to spending our wedding night there. Kissing Angelo's lips lightly, I went into the bathroom with my overnight bag, closing the door behind me. Glimpsing my reflection in the mirror, I stood for a moment, holding my hands against my flushed cheeks. The cause of this rush of heat wasn't nervousness, but anticipation and desire. I was coming to him completely inexperienced, and I was grateful to have the gift of sexual purity to give him. I was also grateful for his experience. I said a silent prayer that none of the pain from my illness would intrude upon our night. I had sensed Angelo's nervousness, but I knew he would be tender with me. He would be the first and only man I ever made love with, and I wanted to remember every single moment. Pulling the comb from my hair and giving my curls a shake, I quickly changed into the gown I had purchased for tonight and exited the bathroom. Angelo had turned the bed down and was sitting on the edge. He stood as I approached him. He was shirtless and beautiful. His hand shook as he drew me to him, but as soon as I wrapped my arms around him and pressed myself against his muscular body, I was lost. Our kiss was full of passion, the taste of one another, stoking the fire burning between us, each touch creating a mutual hunger and thirst that were only assuaged when we finally became one. I never knew it would be like that, I said, resting my head against his chest, looking up at him with a loving smile. I've dreamed of it almost every day since putting your engagement ring on my finger, but I never realized. Truthfully, no imagining could have prepared me for the love I had just experienced with him. Caressing my face, he kissed me, whispering against my lips, "It was never like that for me before." Surprised, I drew back a little, looking into his eyes, wonder filling me. "Never?" He shook his head with an earnest smile. "Never. Not even with Suzanne?" My trembling lips curved. "I'm so grateful to have experienced it with you." Words failed me and I couldn't say more, but in his eyes I saw understanding. One day, this part of our marriage would no longer be possible. I knew he would miss it, but I also knew his love for me was strong enough that we would be okay. He caressed my back. "I am grateful as well. We must savor the experience while we can." Smiling, he kissed me again, whispering, "I plan to take advantage of every opportunity to make love to you." I grinned. "You took the words right out of my mouth, Mr. DeLuca. So how about you take advantage of another opportunity now?" "Mrs. DeLuca," he murmured, rising over me, "you don't have to ask me twice." Later, I fell asleep in his arms, listening to his heartbeat. I had never felt so fulfilled or so happy. The next morning, we had breakfast and checked out, anxious to be on our way. Taking a taxi to the dock, we boarded the ferry with our luggage. Once we were settled in our seats, we took a few selfie shots with Angelo's camera. He kept his arm around me, and I relished the wind on my face as we sailed to Mackinac Island. I pointed excitedly to the round island lighthouse in the distance, which was used for one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The Grand Hotel soon stood before us in the distance like a beacon, and my heart began to pump faster. This was a dream come true for me. Photos and movie shots were one thing, but actually seeing the grand building was indescribable. The stunning hotel was well over a century old, a beautiful historical treasure. When we reached the island dock, we grabbed our luggage and took a horse-drawn taxi to the hotel. Surreal was the only word that I could use to describe the experience of riding up the main road to the hotel. I was so excited to see the famous Grand Hotel sign. I squealed and hugged Angelo tightly. He laughed, holding me close. We entered the lobby, and Angelo chuckled as I released a dreamy sigh. Most of the decor was authentic, and I could picture the lobby scene from the movie. I stood gazing around while he checked us in, imagining Christopher Reeve's character checking in the first time before going back in time. Then we went up to our room, taking in everything along the way. I released another romantic sigh when we walked into the suite, and so did Angelo. It was one of the most beautiful rooms I had ever seen, completely decorated in an eclectic mix of 19th century decor and a color scheme of pastels and floral patterns. It was a Victorian lover's dream room. The bellboy placed our luggage in the room, and Angelo tipped him. He thanked us and left. Angelo had ordered an anniversary welcome package and a honeymoon basket for us. They sat on the table. I loved him for wanting everything to be perfect for me. I walked around the room, running my hand over the black gold-trimmed desk and allowing my fingers to skim over the matching footboard of the bed. As the sudden need of his touch rolled through me, I turned to Angelo and smiled, meeting the look of mutual yearning and desire in his eyes, and we knew the unpacking would wait. He opened his arms, and I moved into his embrace. It was a little after noon when we finally made our way down for the grand luncheon buffet. The formal dining room overlooked the world's largest front porch, 660 feet, lined with American flags. We were seated by the window, giving us a beautiful view of the Straits of Mackinac. The buffet was a sight to behold, with a large variety of food. I was in heaven. Angelo chuckled, watching me enjoy the delicious meal. We had brought his camera and was recording everything, wanting to capture every moment, and I understood why. If the situation had been reversed, I would have wanted to as well. After lunch, we toured the inside of the hotel for a bit, taking a moment to look at the displays of items and props from the movie. I stopped for a long moment and gazed at the famous portrait of Elise that Richard transfixed. Angelo told me he read that Christopher Reeve did not even see the picture until the actual filming, so when he did finally see it, it would be a legitimate reaction. His expression of awe in the movie looked genuine to me, so it was a pretty smart idea. We browsed another moment before heading out to see one of the top places on my list, the Is It You tree, where Richard and Elise met for the first time. We walked down the boardwalk past the pool house and through the trees. The tree was located along the water's edge. "This is amazing," I said, standing next to the tree, reverently running my fingers over the bark. I read the plaque affixed to the stone. "Is it you? At this site on June 27, 1912, Richard Collier found Elise Mackinac." We asked another tourist who had just arrived to take our picture, and we imitated Richard and Elise's meeting. My heart practically burst with love for Angelo, and the adoration in his eyes was priceless. We thanked the man and moved away so he and his wife could enjoy the sight. "That was perfect," I said, hugging my handsome husband's waist. We stood for a moment, and he held me close, pressing a soft kiss to my lips. "I'm glad." Kissing me again, he sighed dramatically, and I laughed. "So, where to next, Bella? What about taking a carriage ride into town for a bit? Could we?" "Definitely." We walked through town, and it was like we had stepped back in time. We stopped by Baxter's coin shop for movie souvenirs. Then we went to the theater where Elise declared her love for Richard during a play she was starring in. There was even a little plaque on the chair Richard sat in, and I got a picture of Angelo kneeling next to the seat. We stopped at the fudge shop and watched a fudge-making demonstration. Angelo and I both love fudge, and we bought a slice for us to share. By now, I was getting tired. It saddened me how much my energy level had dipped. Angelo noticed and took me back to the hotel. When we got back, we took our purchases to our room and changed for dinner. I loved dressing up and had even purchased a few Victorian blouses online to wear. The one I chose to wear to dinner was ivory and embroidered lace with long, slightly puffed sleeves, a drawstring waist, and a high ruffled neck with a cameo. I paired it with a cream-colored, slightly flared skirt. Angelo told me I looked fabulous. He wore a beige Armani suit I picked out, wanting us to blend together. Though he had never worn a suit so light, he did it for me, and he looked amazing. After a light dinner, we decided to stop by the terrace room for a dance. We swayed to a ballad playing by the hotel orchestra. Then we sat in a corner table and listened for a while, watching a few couples swing dance. I grinned at Angelo, and soon we were up swinging right along with them. Dancing with Angelo was one of my favorite things to do. By the time we made it back to our suite, I was exhausted, and I knew I had overdone it. I was experiencing a little pain, but I kept smiling, not wanting Angelo to worry. He grabbed some ibuprofen for me, and I quickly took them. It had been a full day, but I knew he would want me to take it easier during the rest of our time together. "Tomorrow, we will take it a little easier," he said as we got into bed. "I knew you would say that." He quietly looked into my eyes. I continued to smile, but I knew he could see the pain creasing my brow. Touching my face, he gently drew me close, and I saw the tears in his eyes before he turned off the lamp. "I'm sorry, amore." "Shh," I whispered, burying my fingers in his hair and drawing his head down, meeting his lips with mine in the dark. "I'll be fine," I whispered. "Don't worry. Will you just kiss me?" Resting his head against mine for a moment, he whispered, "I love you," then did as I asked.